February the 24th, 2017. Guys, I want to talk about a couple things in this video. First, the 6.9 earthquake that was south of Indoi Island in Fiji. Notice the depth, 396 kilometers deep, down into the magma transition zone. Then you had a 5.2 and a smaller quake 6 hours before that, early in the morning, south of there, both in the Cascadia fault zone. Now what we're seeing is about 3 days now consecutive of increased solar wind speed. I'll show you that as we'll go to space weather. And we've had quakes that go around the Sumerian trench up into India and across the Himalayan chain on both sides. We need to watch that because that's one of the most dangerous areas in the world. Remember the quake where we lost 240 something thousand souls in Banda Aceh. Current solar wind 468 kilometers per second. Guys, that's fast. Now that's been going on for a few days. Your average is around 300, 325. Also, something we haven't seen in months, and not many last year, with sunspots and a chance of flares. But there's a sunspot I'll show you on the SDO that has now developed a beta gamma magnetic field, and it is earth directed. If it causes any CME, space weather says they will be earth directed. Now going back, let's go look at the solar wind speed. That's in the red. Notice to the left is kilometers per second. And guys, we're up over 1 million miles per hour right now. Temperature goes up with that, but if you go back 7 days, I want to show you something. This is your protons, and we haven't seen that kind of burst in quite a while. Now what we are seeing is a 7-day cycle in these coronal holes. They're openings on the surface of the sun that allow this solar wind stream. The one to the right, guys, as you look at these sunspots that are now forming, we haven't seen many, but this section here is moving away from us, but we're still feeling the pressure from that now, because as it gets earth facing, it still takes a couple days for the solar wind to come the 94 million plus miles to our planet. But look what's right behind it, this long deep blue coronal hole. That means that we're going to get a day or two break, and then we're going to see probably stronger solar winds than we're seeing now, probably peaking, I would say, steady for a day or so at 700 kilometers per second, larger quakes. Now this is the sunspot. They're saying that it's both beta and gamma configurated. Guys, what that means when you're dealing with dual magnetic fields, it has a greater chance of solar flares and coronal mass ejections. Now, let's look at the other side of the sun. This is, notice the timestamp at the bottom, February 24th, 2339 hours UTC time, just about 20 minutes before midnight tonight, again, universal time. You're seeing Jupiter, and you're seeing a solar flare that's being broadcast from the left side, the left top corner of the sun in the last few images. Now, this is a fast camera. It's not as clear because it is basically 2 AU from our planet. And you're talking about 190 million miles. But that little dot there, guys, is the second largest object in the solar system, except for the sun. It has its own magnetic field, and it's right on the other side of the asteroid belt, and it's Jupiter. And if you look at where stereo A is in this particular current eyes on the sky, stereo ahead is exactly opposite of the sun is Earth. Now, one thing I want you to notice about stereo ahead, it's in the same orbit as our planet. And let's go there and look at it. Multi-camera satellites, been up a long time. The cameras and the optics have been damaged by multiple solar flares, coronal mass ejections, so forth. It's a very old satellite, but it's giving us this images from the opposite side of the sun. Again, Earth to the right, notice that Venus, but looking at the sun, the yellow dot in the center, you can see Jupiter just behind it. And that's what we were just looking at in the red images from this particular satellite, stereo ahead. Remember, just about 20 minutes before midnight tonight, universal time, there's our planet, the Earth. Same orbit, just the opposite side of the sun. It's very critical because it gives us an idea what's on the back side. Now you can, if you're going to this, you've got visual controls. Notice in the bottom right, click on this, guys, if you haven't already played with this particular software, which is linked in the left column on our website, earthwatch.com. Turn off your spacecraft. You see all the satellites orbiting Earth, and it will give you a little better view. Here's the Earth. We're looking at the sun. But remember, stereo A is on the other side of the sun. Looking across the sun, the Earth is to the right, but Jupiter is directly on top. Why am I emphasizing this? Because we have a solar eclipse coming in 2 days. Sunday, the 9th, that Paul Begley and I are going to talk on his show at paulbegleyprophecy.com, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, guys, live. paulbegleyprophecy.com. Many of you watched before, and you know I've caught a lot of flack about saying Jupiter is the planet of the crossing. In the ancient times, and I've showed you that in the other videos, Jupiter was called Nibiru, and I've told you about and I've actually showed you the documents where different scientists that have put these models together back them up through time, year after year, and you can forward and back with this one, not as far as their computers go, but you can do it here. And Jupiter came inside. It started approaching Mars. Something happened in our solar system. There was possibly another planet between Mars and Jupiter. Now there's just an asteroid belt, as if a massive collision caused the asteroid belt. It also caused what they said was chaos in the inner 3 planets of our solar system. So many people keep looking so far away that they don't see what's right under their nose, guys. And I went through this same conflict for the first year before any scientist on this planet mentioned that solar flares and coronal mass ejections and high solar wind speed caused earthquakes. Remember that? Same thing here. Telling you now what's happening and how does this relate to Jupiter and the eclipse. You'd say, well, it's on the backside of the Earth from the sun. That's exactly right. Now, Jupiter does not emit its own light, although it does have its own magnetic field, but in a strange way, Jupiter does emit light. It emits light in the infrared spectrum. You can't see it with the spectrum that our eye sees. Guys, this is very important to understand what I'm trying to say here. Jupiter actually emits more energy than it receives from the sun. Why? Because it's the binary twin. It doesn't emit light in the small spectrum that our eye sees, but it emits a large electromagnetic spectrum in the infrared range. We have the largest telescope on the planet is in South America near the tip, exactly where the point of this solar eclipse is coming this Sunday. It's called Vista. It's in Paranal. It's the Paranal Observatory in Chile, built in 2008, 4.1 meter aperture. And again, this list is in order of size. Now, on the 26th, during the radio show with Paul Begley, you're seeing a white circle go over South America. Behind it is the sun. The white circle represents the moon. What you're going to be seeing from South America and where this shadow, let's look at the shadow again, pay very close attention. As it moves over South America, it's going over the world's largest infrared telescope right here. Check this out. And then that darkest orange in the very center point is where you're going to get what's called the ring of fire visually from an eclipse. Again, the moon is blocking the sun from our viewpoint on the earth. And when you see that ring of fire, guys, it's blocking the sun's view. Now, it works if you're looking for objects behind the sun, but think about this again. Jupiter is going to be relatively behind the Earth and to our right. Still, from our viewpoint on Earth, in this location, the sun will be blocked. Now, as the Earth turns, we're going to, and from other locations on the planet, especially in Antarctica, there are other telescopes there. I'm just pointing out the world's largest. They're going to get the viewpoint from the other side as we see the shadow of the sun. That means since Jupiter does not emit light visible in the spectrum that we call visible light, but has a tremendous amount of infrared light, we're going to be able to see it very clearly, and all the other objects around it that reflect not only the sun's light, but the sun's light that's reflected from Jupiter onto its 61 moons. And I think, and I've said it before, that is what they're watching, because it would only take some type of magnetic slip, some type of reversal of the magnetosphere that we've seen before. As you look at some of these South Pole telescopes that catch everything, they can catch information in any spectrum. Look at the data on them, and their spectrum covers the entire wavelength. What I was showing you was the largest in order. But now, we've had a lot of visitors to the Antarctic in the last year. A lot of important dignitaries. This is a picture of that observatory at night. And you can see there's zero light pollution. You've got the aurora borealis, which would classify as light pollution in some cases. Depends on what you're looking for. But it's beautiful imaging down there. It's very cold. Also, another key thing, look at the center of the night sky from the South Pole. Extremely wide spectrum. Again, I think they're going to be looking for infrared images from behind the Earth on into the Jupiter system while they can. Now, quick look at Orville Dam, guys. I said I want to cover a couple things. This is a live webcam, and it's live as of 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Of course, it's a couple hours earlier than that. That's when it's still daylight. California, very steep mountainous areas. Check this out. But what I've noticed when they switch this camera to what's called the spray mode, in other words, they show you a wide view, and in the last few days, you could every once in a while see that spray come up from the bottom of the spillway. Now, look at this, guys, and if you've been watching the camera the way I have, you'll notice a couple things. The spray is extremely visible because it's hitting very hard into that broken part of the long spillway. Then the bottom part of the spray is where it hits down into the river. But notice the amount of water in the valley below this 900-foot reservoir. Look at these areas, guys. People have been evacuated. Now, there's a blessing coming for you guys there. Look at the forecast for the next several days. 20% chance. This is Orville through AccuWeather. 10%, 20 through the dates. Nothing over 20% chance for the next 10 days, guys. What a blessing, because you've been saturated. Maybe they can regulate all the upstream dams that flow into, which are 9 dams, flow into Orville, and keep it from running over again, because that spillway doesn't look like it can take a whole lot more. But needed the water. Sometimes maybe you guys are just praying a little too hard for that water, but just kidding, but you know what I mean. The infrastructure's weak. You went from very dry soil that cracked over several years of drought now into moist soil, and we saw that at Orville. Also, guys, Shasta Dam is almost all the way full. Now, again, if you look at the stats at Orville, they are only getting in the 30,000 cubic feet per second inflow, which is great compared to what we've seen. What I don't know is, has the rivers had time from all the snow and rain? We're about to see warmer temperatures. Look at the temperatures here, not only the percentage. And you've had extreme amounts of snow melt above you. So we still got to keep an eye on it. But guys, don't forget the show Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central, allbegleyprophecy.com. We're going to cover this and probably a lot of other things, knowing me and Paul the way we talk, guys. It's always been a good show every time. Make a note to join us, because I think it's going to be a special one. We're going to try, if possible, to get live feeds of the eclipse. We can't do it here from North America because it won't be visible. But there are telescopes you can link to, and we're going to see if we can. If we can't, we'll be able to post some still shots.
last week of January 2017. Have you taken notice to the many changes now happening on Earth? The sheer numbers of individuals who are beginning to pay attention is encouraging, and although the interpretation of events may vary, it provides an avenue for a constructive discussion among those who frequent the Skywatch Media channel and our social media sites. The events happening at this time provide a universal awakening to those who have sat idly by, refusing to acknowledge what their own eyes have shown them. It is the beginning of a great transformation, the same transformation spoken of by ancient civilizations in their text and in their inscriptions portraying the events of their time. If you remember, I indicated that the best way to determine if something is approaching us is to carefully observe the changes in the weather, the intensity and frequency of seismic activity, and the severity of volcanic eruptions. All of these are signs given to us that provide insight into what is happening to our planet, and they can also signify what is likely happening to the other planets within our solar system. These are the signs that will usher in the beginning of the period of tribulation. 2017 has so far proven to be a year that will dramatically change our concept of life and the frailty of human existence on the planet that we call home. The climate is changing in ways that even scientists do not fully understand. If you look at what is happening with the weather in various parts of the world, it certainly looks awe-inspiring at first sight, but its implications are very disturbing. These unprecedented weather events indicate that something yet unexplained is happening in our atmosphere and with our jet stream. The constant unpredictability of our weather patterns would suggest that the Earth's axis is shifting in such a way that we may soon encounter a magnetic pole shift, which scientists admit is a very real probability. But it appears that there is much more to this story than what is being told. There are indications that the Earth's crust is also slipping, with dramatic changes occurring to the ice shelf on the Antarctic continent. On January 22nd, a massive earthquake shook near New Guinea, with preliminary measurements of 8.4 by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, which were later downgraded by the USGS to 8.0. An earthquake of this intensity should warrant major media headlines, but like other recent events of this nature, very little significant information has been forthcoming from the major news outlets. And so the public remains in the dark by those who control mainstream media. If someone proclaims that they saw something very strange in the sky, then it makes no sense to tell them there is nothing to see or that it doesn't exist. This is a tactical maneuver to keep the public from learning the truth. It's called the power of persuasion. So when you are told by skeptics that your image or your video is ludicrous or fabricated, remember the simple rules of observation. Not all eyewitness sightings are mere apparitions or an imaginary presence, and not all photographs or video footage is merely showing a reflection, a lens flare, or a false impression. There are many mysteries on this planet and across our universe that cannot be explained in scientific terms because they defy the explanation of science. Even the power of persuasion cannot outmaneuver the power that has been manifest in the heavens. It's a power that is being felt across the planet, as evident by the disturbing events that are taking place worldwide. The visibility of Nibiru and the Nemesis binary system has increased dramatically just in the past few years. It has increased in size, which indicates it is getting closer, and it is now changing the dynamics of our atmosphere and has altered the magnetic field that surrounds our planet. I posted a video on our Facebook page that was taken on January 20th from Houston, Texas. It shows a mass flock of birds in frantic disarray on a freeway, confused and bewildered, as if they had lost their sense of direction. Now, logic would tell you that if there is a problem with our magnetic field, then this would affect the flight patterns of birds. It's also true that animals and birds have an acute instinct that tells them that something significant is on the verge of happening, thus causing them to react in strange ways, similar to what was witnessed on this Houston freeway. As you can imagine, the gravitational effects of a sizable planet moving closer to the inner solar system would spell big trouble for planet Earth. We are now witnessing the effects of the great Earth and climate changes that are reshaping this planet, as the magnetic core heats up and the Earth's orbit slows down, thus creating a blending of our seasons. As you continue to discover the wonders and mysteries that are there for you to see, keep in mind that it is NASA themselves who have continuously discovered something new in the universe that was previously unthinkable. It was just recently that they found a binary solar system. It is this discovery that could very well explain the Earth's wobble, which is still a scientific mystery waiting to be resolved. We also know that astronomers say a Neptune-sized planet lurks beyond Pluto. Therefore, we should keep an eye out for a blue star that will appear in the sky. As it turns out, a number of skywatchers have already seen this star and have recorded its presence. Consider this. 7,200 years ago, during the cataclysm known as Noah's Flood, sudden changes in temperature, violent storms, and water avalanches from Antarctica broke off from their ice prison. Dr. John T. Holen at Maine University considers that large pieces periodically came out of the Antarctic ice field, creating a huge tide. Does the sudden collapse of the Antarctic ice sheet, which is showing signs of happening at this time, give credence to this educator's hypothesis? 3,600 years ago, during the Jews' exodus from Egypt in the middle of the second millennium BC, the Earth suffered big cataclysms. According to Immanuel Velikovsky's Worlds in Collision, a celestial body that recently entered our solar system, a new comet, came very close to Earth, causing the eventual disappearance of the glacier layer. Our years of research and observation indicates that something is in the process of changing the very makeup of our solar system and affecting the orbit of the planets, which in turn is creating havoc with the magnetic core of the Earth, thus creating atmospheric changes, which lead to more earthquakes, more volcanic eruptions, and more extreme weather events. The effects of its passover will be long-lasting and will change the very fabric of our civilization going forward. This is the long-term analysis of what can be expected to occur as the binary star system continues its extended journey across our solar system. There is also the concern of what can happen in the short term as the Nibiru Nemesis debris field expands, carrying with it enormous asteroids and comet fragments that have the potential to be catastrophic if they impact the Earth. Our planet recently felt the impact of such an event in early 2013, when a large incoming rock detonated in the skies over Russia, causing significant injuries and property damage, as this video would indicate. In the waning days of President Obama's administration, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy released a National Near-Earth Object Preparedness Strategy. The strategy outlines major goals the country will have to take to prepare to meet the NEO threat. Most of us remember movies such as Deep Impact and Armageddon. They attempted to depict what such a crisis would look like. But until fairly recently, the U.S. government never seemed to take this kind of threat very seriously. So what has changed? It appears that the government has taken a series of measures over the past couple of years to help prepare us for incoming meteors and asteroids. In 2016, they founded a Planetary Defense Coordination Office to detect potentially destructive NEOs. Immediately thereafter, they coordinated with FEMA to begin preparedness drills for such an event. In addition, they launched spacecraft to gather asteroid information. In the typical response to the announcement of a new asteroid agency, NASA insists there is no imminent danger to our planet. But if we are to believe their analysis of the dangers that we face, then why spend so much time and resources on a non-existent crisis? I have listed here the 7-point plan that has been implemented in our defense of potential NEOs. There was also a link provided that had outlined the 25-page document recently released by the White House, which I've shown here. But unfortunately, that web page has apparently been removed and is no longer available. We do know, however, that the document was put together by the Interagency Working Group for Detecting and Mitigating the Impact of Earthbound Near-Earth Objects. Just recently, a very large asteroid barely missed us, and we had only discovered it 2 days earlier. Early in the morning, while most of us were preparing our day's activities, a space rock as big as a 10-story building slipped past Earth. The asteroid, dubbed 2017 AG-13, was discovered only 2 days earlier by the University of Arizona's Catalina Sky Survey. This according to an email from SLU, a company that broadcasts live views of space. We were very fortunate this time, but the truth is that our planet is now crossing paths with other giant space rocks on a frequent basis. In fact, a near-Earth object that is being called a cross between an asteroid and a comet will come fairly close to our planet in February. The latter object, dubbed the 2016 WF9, was detected by NASA in late November of 2016 and has left scientists scratching their heads. They have described the celestial rock as a cross between an asteroid and a comet. It's in the middle of its 4.9-year orbit between Jupiter and Earth and will approach us on February 25th, flying by at a distance of 32 million miles from our planet, this according to NASA. Here is the stumbling block when it comes to believing and accepting what we are being told by space professionals. It is a flip of the coin on who is telling the truth. Many space scientists assure us that a large meteor or asteroid will at some point in time impact the Earth. It cannot be avoided. Contrary to their statements, NASA assures us that there is nothing to worry about. But apparently their statements lack reassurance, as others are concerned that something may be coming toward us or that we are moving toward something. Their concerns are well noted. If we accept our instincts and observations of a sky that appears to be folding, bringing the planets and the constellations of our solar system ever closer to one another, this is a troubling concept of reality, but it now appears to be happening. What we must remember if we truly desire to grasp what is happening is that we are a mere speck of dirt moving at incredible speed through a massive galaxy of time and space. which further extends into an endless and ever-changing universe. The world was created for our benefit as a place of protection by a higher entity. But we were given the responsibility of being good stewards of the earth. But in our quest for riches and material well-being, we have failed in that mission. And like everything in life, there are consequences for our actions and our deeds. Be sure to follow our Facebook page for the latest information on Nibiru Planet X and news pertaining to Earth changes. We encourage you to leave a message or post your images and videos for our review. You may also find us on other social media sites. We are here to answer your questions and to help you better understand recent happenings and developments as they pertain to our solar system and to here on planet Earth. If you care about this channel and the information that we provide, we ask that you refrain from offensive language or disrespect towards others. Your comments are monitored for content, so let's be civil in our discourse and help one another in the process. Remember, the truth is out there, so keep looking to the skies.